Chapter 1081. For a split second, Olivia could understand what Ethan went through. A man who was like a brother to him since a young age died for him. His dying wish was for Ethan to take care of Marina. But Marina was a despicable woman who kept holding this dying wish over Ethan. After she gave it some thought, Olivia came to the conclusion that she probably wouldn't have handled the situation better than Ethan. If Marina hadn't exhausted every bit of Ethan's patience, he would never have forsaken her. Ethan sneered when she brought up that name. I'm disgusted when you utter that name. I'm indebted to Kurt, not you. And you've gotten more than you deserve from my debt to him. He stared right into Marina's eyes. You had already committed an unforgivable sin the day you pushed Olivia overboard on that cruise ship. Ethan rolled the window up after he said that. Brent stepped on the gas, and they were off. With every bit of her strength, Marina leapt forward. She fell onto the snowy ground. She reached out in an attempt to stop Ethan. Ethan, please don't leave me. Please. I know I was wrong. I've really learned my lesson. Fabian slowly walked up behind her and bent over to pick her up. He whispered, why won't you ever learn? No, let go of me. Keep your hands off me. Fabian smiled devilishly. You don't want me to touch you. Do you want Ethan instead? Do you really think you would ever be as important as Olivia to him? He probably wouldn't spare you a glance even if you laid bare before him. Even though Marina knew he spoke the truth, she still screamed and was unwilling to accept it. She was so close. One last step, and she could have become Ethan's bride. But she made mistakes one after the other. That was why she ended up at the point of no return. Ethan, who was in the car, wasn't in the mood for anything else. He had his arms around Olivia, but his expression was chilling. Dead silence emanated in the car. Olivia nudged him and said, say something. Ethan leaned on her shoulder and said in a deep tone, I knew about it when she pushed you overboard. I had the urge to strangle her to death, but I could only act as if nothing happened because of Kurt. I know I'm even more despicable than Marina. Olivia nodded. Seems like you know yourself pretty well. I'm sorry. I know you must have been in so much pain when you were in labor, but I wasn't by your side. Giving birth to a baby was painful indeed. But the mental torment was worse than the physical pain. It went on for years. Those days still felt surreal to Olivia. She didn't know how she managed to get through those days. No matter what happens in the future, I will be by your side. What if Leia and I stand on opposite sides? Who will you pick? Olivia asked. Liv, Leia is my sister. We are bound by blood. But I know everything she has done to you. I will never allow any of that to happen again. I've severed her tendons. She can't do anything else. She is a cripple now. Who knows what will happen in the future? What if she manages to become my enemy despite that? I'll choose you without hesitation. You're the most important person in my life. I regretted my actions for many years after I shot your hand for her sake. Ethan caressed her face gently. From now on, I don't want to do anything I might regret. Chapter 1082. Brent didn't drive them home. Instead, he stopped the car at a hotel. After they got on the elevator, Olivia asked, why did you bring me here? Ethan tapped her on the nose lightly. I never had time to spend with you in the past. We were married, but our relationship was worse than a regular couple. I want to do all the things we never got to do before, Liv. The lights shone down and illuminated Ethan's gentle gaze. Olivia could hear her heartbeat quicken. He was different from before. Then, he leaned forward and whispered, don't you think it would be more exciting doing it in a 100-story building? Olivia was rendered speechless. This bastard. Ethan shamelessly pulled her out of the elevator. Then, he pushed her into a room. Olivia was shocked by what she saw. The entire suite was littered with rose petals. There was a thick layer of petals on the carpet. The fragrance of roses permeated the room. Ethan pushed her into the bathroom. Change your face. It feels like I'm cheating on you when I'm kissing this face. Olivia was amused. He was being very peculiar about this. She removed the makeup and took a shower. She noticed a dress had already been prepared on a nearby rack. He was quite thoughtful. Olivia changed into the dress and pinned her hair up with a hairpin. There was also a small, white-colored headpiece on the side. She was curious about the surprises he had in store for her. Olivia opened the door. The lights in the room had been turned off. There were star-shaped lights on the roses. The atmosphere in the room was perfect. For a moment, Olivia was afraid that people would jump out and spray confetti at her. Fortunately, that didn't happen. Ethan stood among the petals with a bunch of roses in his hands. Olivia took a few steps forward and stopped. She looked at him with her arms crossed. "It would be very lame if you proposed to me here." As soon as she said that, Ethan got down on one knee. "Liv, I owe you a wedding and a proposal. It is just a formality. You don't have to take it to heart." When she was in love with Ethan, Olivia thought the love they had could triumph over anything. So, she agreed to be his wife without any ceremonies or formalities. At that moment, Ethan had everything prepared, but she wasn't that young woman who was madly in love anymore. At her age, she didn't need formalities. She just wanted her family to be safe and sound. "Liv, I said I would give you everything that I wasn't able to before. I love you. Will you marry me?" Ethan held a gorgeous diamond ring in his hand. It was different from the ring they had. He probably had a new one designed. He wanted to start anew. Olivia didn't care about his intentions. She bent over, took the roses, and sniffed them. "They smell great. I'll take the flowers, but I don't want the ring." Olivia noticed the disappointment in Ethan's eyes. But she knew she couldn't give him the relationship he wanted anymore. She tried to change the subject. "Didn't you say you want to do something exciting? Are you sure you want to waste your time on something like this?" Ethan suppressed the disappointment and picked her up. Then, he placed her on the bed covered in rose petals. The bed was very soft, and Olivia bounced up for a bit when Ethan put her down on it. Ethan's chest pressed against her. "I won't let you go tonight." Olivia wrapped her arms around his neck and said, "Be gentle with me." Chapter 1083. The sun had yet to rise, but Ethan's phone kept vibrating. He wanted to turn it off and keep sleeping but noticed it was a call from Joel. Joel wouldn't contact him unless it was something very important. "What's wrong, Mr. Tucker?" Ethan lowered his voice as he looked at Olivia, who was in his arms. He didn't want to wake her. "That person is injured." Ethan was instantly wide awake. "When did it happen? Why wasn't I informed?" "It happened 30 minutes ago. News of the incident is being kept secret by the top brass. I'll get there as soon as possible." Ethan hung up and looked at Olivia, who had just woken up. He kissed her on the lips and said, "Liv, I'm sorry. There's an emergency." Olivia understood that Ethan was a busy man. She nodded and went back to sleep. Her carefree attitude amused Ethan. In the past, she wouldn't be able to sleep if he needed to leave before daybreak. She would get up and send him off with a worried expression. Ethan left in a hurry. Just as Olivia was about to fall asleep, her phone rang. It was an unknown caller. She picked up. "Hello, it's me." Jack's voice came from the other end of the line. Olivia's drowsiness left her immediately. His voice sounded off. "What's wrong, Jack?" "I'm injured." "Where are you?" "I'll get there immediately." Jack was like a brother to Olivia. She rushed over to his side when she heard that he was injured. Jack was a deserter from the Black Ravens. They never stopped going after him. Did they put him on the back foot this time? But she didn't receive any news on that. Olivia arrived at her villa. The living looked like a crime scene. There was blood everywhere. It seemed like Jack was seriously injured this time. He was sitting on the carpet and leaning against the couch. He was holding on to consciousness with sheer willpower as he waited for Olivia to arrive. "I'm sorry I soiled your carpet." Tears welled up in Olivia's eyes when she saw Jack covered in blood. She rushed over to him and asked, "What were you doing, Jack? How did you get so badly injured?" Jack smiled in resignation. "I can't tell you about it. A few days ago, he said he needed to go on a mission. Jack helped her a lot, but he never told her anything. So, Olivia never asked. If she knew he would be injured, she would have asked about it. "Let me take a look at your wounds." Olivia was calmer than she had ever been. It was at times like these when she had to keep her cool. With his identity, Jack couldn't be sent to the hospital. She was his only hope. I might not make it through this. Olivia, actually, Before he could finish his sentence, Jack blacked out and fell over. Olivia quickly held him steady. Jack was in a horrible state. His arms, abdomen, and chest had been shot. Olivia couldn't even imagine what kind of perilous situation he was in to sustain these injuries. She had to remove the bullets from his body as soon as possible. Luckily, she had fashioned one of the basement rooms into a medical room when she purchased the villa. Olivia carried Jack to the basement. She was alone and didn't have an assistant. She had to be the anesthetist, general surgeon, and cardiovascular specialist. Olivia put on sterile clothing and quickly removed the bullets from Jack's wounds. He was gravely wounded. His survival wasn't guaranteed. Olivia was panicking, but her hands were steady. She had no choice. She had to save Jack. Chapter 1084. When Ethan got to the hospital, he saw Joel looking very troubled. "How is he, Mr. Tucker?" Joel shook his head. "It's not looking good. All the best doctors are looking at him. The bullet hit right below his heart. It is a very dangerous spot. We can still keep him alive with the bullet in him, but if there are any mistakes when extracting the bullet, he will die on the spot. He is currently unconscious. Do we know who shot him? We don't know yet. Keeping Mr. Mason alive was our top priority. Yale just got here, too. With Mr. Mason in this state, he wouldn't be able to see him even if he came." Ethan snorted. "That's true. I just wanted to tell you one thing. There is still one person in the world that could perform that surgery. You have to find him before Yale. It would help you greatly in the election if you save Mr. Mason's life." "Who is it?" "The famed cardiovascular specialist Lionel Gatsby." Ethan frowned. "Isn't he retired? How do I find him?" "You have to find him no matter what, and you only have 2 days to do so. I can only keep Mr. Mason alive for 2 more days. Your rivalry with Yale has reached a crucial stage. If he finds Lionel before you do, he will gain Mr. Mason's support and emerge victorious." There were only 2 days. According to hearsay, Lionel went off the grid after he retired. Ethan had been looking for him in the past year but to no avail. "Understood. I will go take a look at Mr. Mason." Crystal was crouching on the floor and crying profusely in the corridor. An elegant middle-aged woman sat beside her. "Stop crying. Mom, do you think Dad is already dead? Stop that nonsense. Why would he die? Some of the best specialists are treating him right now." Yale, who was sitting next to them, said gently, "Don't worry, Crystal, Mr. Mason will surely survive. He won't go down so easily. You don't have to worry too much either, Mrs. Heath. I will find Dr. Gatsby. I'll leave that to you then, Yale." As she was crying, Crystal saw Ethan coming over. She rushed toward him and jumped into his arms. Ethan pushed her away discreetly. "I'm sorry for being late, Mrs. Heath. It's nice to see you, too, Ethan. Mason is. I've heard about it. Don't worry, I'll save him." "I'm glad to hear you say that. You and Yale have to find Dr. Gatsby as soon as possible." Ethan and Yale left at the same time. Yale had a courteous smile on his face. "I'm very curious. Where are you going to find Dr. Gatsby? Seems like you think you have this in the bag." Yale stopped in his tracks and whispered, "Ethan, luck won't always be on your side. It's time for fortune to smile on me for once. We'll see about that." Ethan left with brisk strides. Calvin and Brent followed him. "What's the situation, Mr. Miller? Look into how Mr. Mason got shot. I feel like something's amiss. Are you suspecting Yale?" Ethan saw the confidence on Yale's face. It was like he already knew where Lionel was. "This is not the time to talk about that. Brent will work on looking for Lionel. Calvin, do some probing on this assassination attempt." "Understood. What would you be doing, Mr. Miller?" Lionel wasn't the best cardiovascular specialist in the world. It might be true that he used to be the best. But he had retired for a few years. He was old and hadn't used a scalpel in a long time. Mason's life was hanging in the balance. Ethan knew that Olivia had performed a heart surgery last year, which garnered international attention. Olivia was the better choice for this. Chapter 1085. Brent's face lit up. "That's right. We almost forgot about Mrs. Miller. The heart surgery she performed last year is still being praised now. So, we still have a chance even if Yale has already found Dr. Gatsby. If Yale has already made preparations, then, Dr. Gatsby must be with him already. He wouldn't make a move so quickly. So he will probably show up with Mr. Gatsby tomorrow. You should get Mrs. Miller then, Mr. Miller. We'll beat them to it. Ethan drove to the hotel. He figured Olivia should still be sleeping at this hour. When he went into the room, no one was there. Olivia was nowhere to be seen. The room was still as messy as they left it the night before. Something was off. Given Olivia's personality, she wouldn't have allowed her clothes to be scattered on the floor. She would have tidied up the place if she wanted to leave. There was only one explanation. She left in a hurry. Ethan called her number, but her phone was turned off. Why would she leave all of a sudden? Besides, she told him he could contact her on this phone. Why would she turn it off? Ethan didn't look into what Olivia had been doing or where she had been in the past years because he didn't want her to hate him. So, her turning off her phone was like she had disappeared off the face of the earth for him. Ethan quickly got someone to check the security footage. It showed that Olivia left the room 5 minutes after he did. She also left in a hurry and didn't even have the time to put on her disguise. She went out with her actual appearance. Calvin drove her car home the night before, so she went out of sight at the intersection. Mrs. Miller probably left in a cab, Mr. Miller. But she was in the camera's blind spot. It would take some time to look for her. We need to find her as soon as possible. Check Warren. See if she is with him. Yes, sir. Olivia left in a hurry. What would cause her to do that? That was beside the point. Ethan was more worried about Olivia. It took Olivia several hours to pull Jack back from the clutches of death. She slumped into a chair next to him after she noticed his chest heaving slightly. Her forehead was covered in sweat. It was very taxing to perform surgery alone. She had to be extremely precise on every step. One slight mistake and Jack would have died on the operating table. Luckily, she was able to remove all the bullets. Jack's vital signs slowly returned to normal. Jack opened his eyes and looked at her weakly. Olivia, don't speak, Jack. You have just gotten out of critical condition, but your body is still weak. You need to be put under observation for a few days. Thank you. You don't have to be a stranger. Did the Black Ravens get to you? Jack was unwilling to talk about what happened. You don't have to concern yourself with what happened. Olivia sighed. All right, I won't force you to tell me if you don't want to. Get some rest. I will clean up the room. Holler at me if you need anything. Okay. Olivia went up to the living room, where blood was everywhere, and started to clean up. The rug was soaked in his blood. She couldn't just throw them away. It would be troublesome if someone found them and took samples. It took Olivia 2 hours to clean the room. Then, she went and made some liquid food for him and observed his mental state. She finally sighed in relief after she confirmed that he was fine. Jack, please let me know if you're going to do something so dangerous next time. You scared me to death. Jack smiled weakly. If I didn't make it, would you be sad? Of course. Even though we're not blood related, I've always thought of you as my brother. Before she could finish her sentence, Olivia received a notification on her phone informing her that someone was pressing the doorbell. Chapter 1086. Who could it be at this hour? Olivia didn't have friends in Aldenvine. She also didn't have any food deliveries or parcels. She tapped her phone and saw a familiar face. It was Ethan. How did he find her here? Was he a bloodhound? Ethan is here, Jack. I'll go see what he wants. Okay. She had a deal with Ethan. He wouldn't come looking for her here without a good reason. Something was wrong. Ethan wouldn't do anything to harm her, so she would know what was up after they met up. Olivia opened the door. Why are you? Her sentence was cut short when Ethan rushed forward and hugged her. Olivia was shocked by his warm embrace. What's wrong with you? I'm so glad you're okay. Your phone was turned off. I have been searching for you the whole day. Olivia suddenly remembered that she had turned off the phone she used to contact Ethan because she was performing surgery and didn't want to be interrupted. I mean, I was just gone for a day. You don't need to overreact. She couldn't really understand what Ethan was thinking, but she suppressed the surprised look on her face when she felt his body trembling. Liv, do you know how I felt when I lost you? I looked for you for more than 1,000 days. Do you even know how I lived through those days? I've finally found you. I don't want anything else. I just wish you happiness and good health. I noticed that you left in a hurry this morning. I was afraid something would happen to you. Ethan's words moved Olivia. She really didn't know Ethan would be so afraid of losing her. She reached out and patted him on the back. Don't worry, I'm fine. Do I look like something happened to me? The panic in Ethan's eyes slowly dissipated. I went to the Carlton residence. They told me you were unwell and didn't go to treat Marina. So, I was worried. Olivia cleared her throat. It's because you overdid it last night. You pressed me against the glass. She blushed when she said that. Ethan looked at her with a concerned expression. Are you feeling better now? I'm a doctor myself. I felt better after taking some medications. Look at all the snow on you. How long have you been standing outside? Olivia reached out and swept the snow off his shoulders. Ethan used to be a very calm person. He had never been so pitiful. Ethan's stomach rumbled. Olivia could see that he was uneasy. Haven't you eaten anything the whole day? I wasn't in the mood to eat while you were still missing. Olivia didn't know what to say. She led him into the house and said, I'll make you some food. Ethan's hand was cold. She could only imagine how hard he worked to find her. Everything outside was covered in snow. Snowflakes were still falling in the yard. As Olivia was complaining, she brought him inside the house. Ethan observed Olivia's yard closely. He wanted to know her current preferences based on the items in the yard. His gaze fell on a rug that was already frozen. It was apparent that the rug had just been washed. Most people would use a fabric cleaning machine when washing a rug. It could clean out stains very quickly. Was that rug covered in stains? Ethan was curious. It would take quite some time to clean such a huge rug, right? Did Olivia rush over here to clean? A gust of warm air flowed toward them when they entered the living room. There was also a faint fragrance in the air. The lights were bright. The temperature was warm. The place felt very homely. Olivia hung the jacket he took off on a nearby rack. Liv, is this your home? Chapter 1087. Yeah, this is my temporary home in Aldenvine. You aren't planning on moving, right? This entire house is designed based on your preference. You picked out this furniture yourself, right? Ethan knew her well. Olivia nodded. Yeah, I was born and raised in Aldenvine. I wanted to have a home here. That was why she spent so much money to acquire the medical equipment. She wanted to be prepared for every occasion. Ethan felt bad when he heard that. Liv, I'm sorry. She used to have a home. When the Fordhams went bankrupt, their residence was seized. Even if it was reacquired later, it was no longer her home. The house she lived in when she married Ethan was filled with unpleasant memories. Marina lived in Collington Cove before, and the apartment belonged to Keith. This was the only house she bought herself and never belonged to anyone else. She picked out everything in the house personally. It's all in the past. I'll make you some pasta. Olivia quickly headed to the kitchen. Ethan looked at the flowers on the dining table. Olivia was still the same. She placed some fresh flowers there. The main color in the living room was beige. It looked very warm. Ethan took a look around the house. He was like a lion that was surveying his territory. He took a cup of water and was about to sit down and take a break when he dropped his car keys. When he crouched down to pick them up, he noticed a shade of red under the couch. The bright color stood out against the beige-colored couch. It was hard to miss. It was blood. It was a new stain that had been left there not more than 10 hours ago. But why would there be blood under the couch? Ethan looked at the spotless floor. It was so clean it was also shining. Then, Ethan thought about the rug he saw when he walked in. A thought began to form in his mind. Someone had bled all over the rug. The blood was everywhere, and it got under the couch. Olivia missed it when she was cleaning. There was indeed a reason for her hasty departure. Ethan's eyes darkened. Who was the injured person? Why was the person injured? Was the person still in the vicinity? Questions popped up in his head. After a while, Olivia brought 2 plates of pasta out while wearing an apron. She looked like she was a housewife like she used to be. Ethan couldn't see anything suspicious about her. Olivia had matured. The Olivia of the past was like an open book. She had grown to be able to keep her emotions hidden when she was with her. It's already so late. You haven't eaten either. Olivia popped open a can and added the hot sauce to her plate. Yeah, I have been cleaning the whole day. I didn't have the time to eat. Olivia knew that Ethan was very observant. She was sure he probably already noticed the rug. Why don't you hire a housekeeper? It would be a waste of time for you to clean such a large house. Olivia was spreading the hot sauce on her pasta to make it more even. Her face was lowered so Ethan couldn't see her facial expression. I'm used to it. I cleaned the house we used to live in by myself, too. Live, eat. The pasta is getting cold. Olivia didn't tell him anything, and Ethan wasn't in a position to inquire further. The atmosphere became strained. Ethan didn't tell Olivia why he was looking for her yet. Live, tonight. Olivia shut him down without hesitation. I want to rest today. You've seen me. You should leave after you finish the pasta. Ethan reached out and held her hand. Liv, why are you in such a rush to get rid of me? Are you hiding another man in this house? Chapter 1088. Olivia didn't know if she should be amazed at how accurate his intuition was. Ethan, what does that have to do with you? I'm not hiding anyone, but even if I was hiding a man, you're in no position to intervene. Her cold demeanor reminded Ethan of his response back when she asked about his relationship with Marina. He said something similar to brush her question aside. This time, Olivia gave him the same response. That was true. They were no longer in a relationship. They weren't even lovers. The night of passion was something he had to beg for. If they really wanted to lay everything bare, the truth would only hurt Ethan. He had no one to blame but himself. That was how he treated Olivia in the past. It was retribution for his actions. Olivia caressed his face and said, Ethan, you should behave while I am still attracted to you physically. She was like a seductive but venomous snake hissing in his ear. Or else, I can end this ridiculous relationship whenever I want. What do you think? Ethan was at a loss for words. He was the weaker party in this relationship. So, he lost the initiative and his pride. But he was still willing to be part of it. Ethan smiled in resignation. But Liv, I didn't seek you out to do it. I need your help for something. Olivia moved away from him and sat down at the dining table. She supported her face with her arm and said, What can I do about something the great Ethan Miller can't deal with? You can remove bullets from the heart. Olivia looked at him. Who's been injured? If it weren't for someone important, Ethan wouldn't be asking her for a favor. She started to think about everyone Ethan knew. No wonder he had been looking for her in such a hurry. It's someone very important. Olivia peeled a grape. Tell me. How important is this person? Ethan pointed at the ceiling. Olivia's expression turned serious. That man we see in the news. Yes. I don't want to do it. They'll kill me if I fail. Ethan was amused. We're not in the medieval ages anymore. Olivia bit into the grape. It was sweet with a tinge of sourness. She liked that. There are a lot of renowned specialists by his side. Why would I be needed? You might trust me, but the others probably won't. Besides, why would his death concern me? What do I stand to gain? She wasn't the young and naive she used to be. She was more alert and cautious than before. It would have been better if she hadn't gotten involved with too many troublesome matters. If you save his life, you'll receive certain legal immunities and special privileges. I trust you know the benefits of those gifts. What if I fail? It's something the other renowned doctors failed to do. I'm just another woman. I probably can't do it either. Ethan looked into her eyes. But I trust that you'll succeed. He licked his lips. If you fail, I will shoulder all the responsibility. If you succeed, you'll have helped me immensely, Liv. Olivia knew of the rivalry between Ethan and Yale. She figured this was yet another one of their competitions. She feigned ignorance but was hesitant. Did she want to help Ethan? After all, this matter had nothing to do with his life, just his ambition. A man like him had all the money he could ever need, and now he's trying to amass all the power he could muster. She licked the grape juice on the corner of her lips and asked, "What is in it for me if I help you? Would you give me custody of Connor?" Chapter 1089. Olivia was acting like a cunning businesswoman. She did away with all her naivete and kindness. All she thought about was her personal interests and gains. Ethan sighed. Liv. All the other children grew up by her side. He had never fought with her for their custody. Connor was responsible for inheriting the Miller family. "I can give you anything except Connor. I know you feel bad for him. But the Miller family needs an heir. I need a successor. If you don't give him to me, I won't help save the person. Think about it carefully." Ethan suddenly leaned over and started to kiss her roughly as if punishing her for not helping him. His beloved Liv had already grown to be able to stand her ground and negotiate with him. He didn't want to make things difficult for Olivia. So, he let go of her after a deep kiss. "All right, Liv, I won't force you if you don't want to do it. You can pretend I never brought this up tonight." Ethan went back to his seat. "You're right. I can't change anything, no matter what I do. I'm already content that you're willing to let me be by your side. I don't want to lose that. I'm sorry for troubling you tonight." He picked up his jacket and walked to the door. Olivia watched as he disappeared into the snow. His silhouette seemed to be filled with a sense of desolation. Gone was the elegance he used to have. For some reason, Olivia thought about the time Ethan saved her from the ocean. "Don't worry, I'll save you." She didn't know when she fell for him, but she was desperately in love with him. From that moment on, she had always been getting the short end of the stick. "Hey, Ethan." Ethan quickly stopped walking and turned around. Olivia was leaning on the door with her arms crossed. She smiled devilishly at him. "I don't want custody of Connor anymore. I'll take something else instead." She never actually wanted to take Connor from Ethan. She wanted to see if he would sell his own son out for his ambition. Fortunately, he didn't do that. He didn't hand over his son so easily. While standing in the snow, Ethan looked at her. "Did you change your mind? I don't have anything better to do anyway. I might as well go take a look. Perhaps I might be pleasantly surprised. That way, she could get closer to his world." Since Crystal slapped her and all the medical staff looked down on her, Olivia had been thinking of getting a glimpse of the world they lived in. It wasn't because she wanted to live in their world. She just wanted to see what it was like. She wanted to see for herself why they thought they were better than everyone else. Ethan ran toward her and hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Liv. Don't get too excited yet. The others can't do it. I might not be able to pull it off either. I'm just going to take a look. Liv, I am already happy that you could agree to go with me. We should head over right now. Time is of the essence." Olivia pointed at the pajamas she was wearing. "At least let me change first." She went back to her room and sent Colin a message. He had to take care of Jack while she wasn't there. Colin replied, "Olivia, you're really a slave driver." Olivia smiled. "Thanks for this, Colin. I'll make sure to find you a pretty wife someday." After she sent the texts, Olivia changed into her black coat and followed Ethan into the night. It was her second time visiting this place. The first time she visited, she came in an ambulance. Back then, it was dark and snowing heavily. Olivia didn't get a chance to observe her surroundings. She only remembered that it was very cold. The people were also looking at her with icy gazes. And yet, she was back again. Chapter 1090. This time, it was different. There were already many people waiting at the door before she got out of the car. There were bodyguards, doctors, and a teary-eyed Crystal. Crystal tugged on Joel's sleeve and asked, "Would this doctor really be able to save my father, Mr. Tucker?" Olivia looked at Ethan and said coldly, "She's here, too." Ethan explained, "She's from the Heath family as well. Don't tell me she's Mr. Heath's daughter." Ethan rubbed his temples. "Their situation is complicated, but yes, she is Mr. Heath's daughter. He is my teacher of sorts." Olivia snorted. "So, you two were childhood friends." Ethan was a little troubled. He didn't know how to talk about these confidential matters. Then, someone opened the door. Crystal rushed over. "Doctor." Her expression changed when she saw that it was Vanessa in the car. She could never forget the green-eyed girl's scary expression, like she wanted to kill her. The girl had an angelic face but a venomous personality. This woman who gave birth to that girl couldn't possibly be a good person. Why is it you? Why are you here? Joel was surprised. You brat, what a pleasant surprise. You actually managed to bring Vanessa here. Joel had wanted to bring Olivia here, but she was in the village, and there was no way of contacting her. Even if he sent someone over, and she agreed to come, Mason would already be dead before she could get here. So, Joel gave up on that idea. He didn't expect Ethan to act on that idea and bring her here. Joel pulled on Crystal's hand. Crystal, don't be rude. She's a very capable cardiovascular specialist. Mr. Heath will be saved with her here. For some reason, Crystal never liked Vanessa, even when they first met in the village. It was just her intuition. Sure, she can cure poisons, but can she really perform surgeries? She better not be a mediocre doctor. My father's life is hanging in the balance. If she... Olivia looked at Crystal calmly. Since Miss Heath doesn't trust me, I might as well leave. She closed the door after she said that. Ethan knew Olivia didn't like Crystal. She was free to choose if she wanted to participate in this matter. He didn't want to force her to do anything she didn't want to do. So, he didn't stop her. Joel barely managed to grab the door before Olivia could close it. Please ignore Crystal. Mr. Heath's life is hanging by a thread right now. Vanessa, please save him, for my sake, too. Olivia remembered how Joel looked when he left. He was her teacher's friend, after all. In the end, Olivia decided to get out of the car. Joel quickly followed behind her. All of the medical staff were checking her out. Some of them even looked at her with admiration. Some people were even talking about her. So, she's Vanessa. She's younger than I imagined. I didn't expect to meet my idol. Their attitudes were completely different. Even Joel was very polite before her. Did Ethan tell you about the situation? I've seen the medical report and X-ray images. The bullet is in a very dangerous position. None of us dare to operate on him. What do you think? Olivia said calmly, I can do the operation. Her words brought ecstasy to Joel's eyes. Really? How confident are you? I think there's a success rate of 80%. That was a very high success rate. But Crystal's disruptive voice rang out. 80%. Even Mr. Moran said he couldn't do it. Who do you think you are? Are you just spewing nonsense?